Thank you.
Direct result of your leadership. Your leadership. Our Muslim brothers and sisters have been talking to you for how long? You have to listen to them, Todd. Just like you did with ICE. You were fooled in ICE. You were fooled in science propaganda. And you'll keep doing it as long as it lines your pockets, won't it? Show something.
I love the sign language woman. Oh my God, that's like you. Right? That's you is amazing.
So if you guys are wondering what that was San Diego's extremely pro-Israel mayor, Todd Gloria, essentially getting an earful from a constituent following the fatal shooting of 3 people at a mosque in San Diego on Monday. 3 men were fatally shot at the Islamic Center of San Diego on Monday morning specifically, and we do have some details about the suspects. 2 teenage suspects were found dead nearby shortly after with self-inflicted gunshot wounds. So this story is still developing and we should be careful with it. You know, there's rumors flying around, but we gotta stick to the facts. And this is what we know so far. According to San Diego Police Chief Scott Wall, one of the victims was a security guard by the name of Amin Abdullah, who was pivotal in preventing more bloodshed. He's the father of 8 kids. So 8 kids were robbed of a father through this horrible, tragic act. The other 2 victims were identified as Mansour Kazia and Nader Awad. Another person was also shot several blocks away from the mosque, but was not hit by any bullets. Okay, so here's what we know about the suspects. The attackers' motive was not immediately clear. And Wall said that they had made no known threat to the mosque, but he said hate rhetoric was involved and investigators are treating the shooting as a hate crime. One of the suspects took a firearm from their parents' home and left a suicide note that contained writings about racial pride. Multiple law enforcement officials briefed on the latest told CNN. Additionally, hate speech was scrawled on one of the weapons that was used in the shooting, the official said. So it's unclear what the specifics of the hate language, happen to be. We don't know that yet, but one of the suspects has been identified as a 17-year-old by the name of Kane Clark, and Kane's mother actually warned police about her son hours prior to this shooting taking place. The police received a call this morning about a runaway juvenile from the mother of one of the shooting suspects. The woman believed that her son was suicidal and said that several of her weapons and her vehicle were missing. She said that her son left with a companion and that they were both dressed in camouflaged clothing. So this led investigators to believe that the teens may be a threat to others, and according to Wall, triggered a larger threat assessment picture, whatever that means. Obviously, it wasn't enough to prevent this shooting from taking place. Wall made it clear that there was no specific threat, especially no specific threat to the Islamic Center. It was just general hate kind of speech that I think covered a wide gamut. Again, we are still actively investigating this as we speak, but it was more generalized. Meaning, I think he's trying to communicate there that it wasn't necessarily directed hate toward Muslims in terms of the language used.
Yeah, I don't know why they're saying that. So I read that they did talk about Muslims. Here's another clue that it was about Muslims. They went to an Islamic center and shot 3 Muslims and killed them, right? And so I think what they're trying to say is it wasn't specific to that particular Islamic center. Like, we hate Muslims, but it wasn't like, oh, okay, this center at such and such address. So I don't know why they're going out of their way to say, yes, it's definitely a hate crime, but generalize. Let
me ask you something. So if a mother called and said, my son appears violent and suicidal, he has taken my weapons and my vehicle and said that he's, potentially going to cause damage, like has hatred in his heart for Jews or Jewish people. What do you think would happen in San Diego? They would lock down every single synagogue, every single temple, as they should. That's what should happen.
So that's the part where I'm not sure about. As you said in the beginning, fog of war kind of situation always happens with shootings here in America as well. So did they know, did the mom say that it was about Muslims at that time, because they only had a couple hours between the mom reporting it and the shooting. So they just might not have had enough time, and they might not have known that Muslims were the target. Yes, if they knew Muslims were the target and they didn't warn people, then that's a problem, right? If it was longer than a couple hours, then that's a problem. But like, I'm not trying to beat up on the authorities too much here. We don't have enough facts.
That's
so
fair.
far.
But what about like after the dust settles, the reporting is like teenagers mentally disturbed. This is the headlines.
I know.
When somebody got a car and drove into a synagogue, which is horrible, immediately the headlines were like a Hezbollah operative drove into it without even getting any news. And this is the double standard of reporting that's just crazy. There's no fog of war here.
That's a good point. I mean, right here, I mean, the thing that is front loaded about the suspects is suicidal, mental health issues, whatever. And look, I don't care what the motive is. They killed 3 innocent people at an Islamic center in San Diego, and at the end of the day, the political violence, especially as it pertains to this issue, is a huge problem. You know, the way that, honestly, the way Muslims are talked about, the way Arabs are dehumanized through the cover our media provides to Israel as they indiscriminately slaughter Arabs and Muslims in the Middle East. I mean, that has a trickle-down effect. That actually does have a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think we also need. I've been seeing this. A lot of content creator has been talking. I think I'm starting to agree with them. We need to stop using the word Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a very reductive word because phobia excuses the perpetrators. Arachnophobia, oh my God, I'm scared of spiders. I'm scared of heights. I'm scared from I'm scared from closed spaces. No, these people are not afraid. They are criminals.
Yeah.
They are anti-Muslim, like you are being anti-Semitic. So I think the whole idea, even the word Islamophobia, is a way to soften what these people do.
Well, let me read you something that Laura Loomer posted.
Larry Loomer, okay.
Immediately after this tragic shooting happened. She wrote, "The mosque was supposedly shot up today. Just remember, the people who attend this mosque want us all to be killed," she said. "We will be told they are such amazing people. Eight kids were robbed of their father because of the shooting." Anyway, I'm not advocating for violence. I condemn violence. I'm showing you how evil this mosque is and always has been. So what does Laura Loomer think she's doing when she's telling people that the parishioners or the people at this mosque want to kill everyone in the country? What do you think you're accomplishing by doing that? That incites violence. And by the way, that was her statement in a quote post where she quoted stopantisemitism.com.
Yeah.
And here's how they reacted to the shooting. So we are horrified to see Lalia, wife.
Lalia Al-Ali. Okay.
You can take over the names. Okay? Wife of Iman. Go ahead.
Lalia Al-Ali, I think.
No, Taha Hassani.
Yes, of the Islamic Center of San Diego, posts this horrific image to her Facebook profile. The graphic shows a Jewish star murdering babies with "the devil is killing" at the bottom. I mean, where's the lie though?
Yeah.
Okay, so Al-Ali is also the local leader of the Palestinian Youth Movement, an entity tied to the anti-Israel protests occurring all over the US these past few weeks.
So they deserve it.
That's exactly what they're trying to say.
Exactly.
So I actually, look, I don't have time to like engage in like reporting posts on social media, I'm busy. But to me, what Laura Loomer posted incited violence, and for the first time ever, I felt the need to report something. I reported it and I got a response back from X. I want you guys to read what they sent me. "Thanks for reporting, Laura Loomer. Our support team has determined that a violation of our rules did not take place, specifically violating our rules against violent speech." So that wasn't violent speech. Inciting violence toward Muslims by defaming them as individuals who want to kill all of us Americans. That's apparently not inciting violence. That's not violent speech.
I think she had another tweet. She said like, yes, I'm horrified by what happened, but the solution for this is to send all of these people back to their Islamic country so they can pray in their own mosques for in peace instead of, it's just like, this is their solution. I mean, this is, I think at a certain point, they're trolling us. Like someone like Larry Loomer or someone like Michael Rappaport. They're just like, they're like, just like, yeah, we are ugly and we are horrible and we are gonna get away with it. Again, spitting in our faces.
Yeah, so I think we moved on to the humiliation portion of our programming, right? With the Israeli First crowd, Israel First. So yeah, I see them saying all the time now, like, oh, you guys are buying this seat in Kentucky, $16 million. And they go, yeah, cry harder. Meaning like, yeah, we are buying your Congress and there's nothing you can do about it. So now we're rubbing it in. Right?
I know, but they're not helping their cause. They're not helping their cause.
They don't care.
They don't care because
they have the power and the money.
But then don't cry when people don't like you guys. Don't cry about it.
Are you kidding me? That's their #1 tactic.
Okay, but it's not working anymore because you guys are unlikable.
I think it's working. I think the way that they do it, I always give this edit example. Remember, like all of these. I'm sorry, it's unrelated, but like remember all of these videos that the Israeli soldiers like film themselves doing all horrible things. No army, no disciplined army in the world will let their soldiers do this unless it is encouraged and it's allowed. And they do that. And I once sat with a professor in Britain. And he said they do that so people would purposely hate Jewish people. It's like, see, anti-Semitic. It's perpetual. They do that so you actually hate them, and then when you do and when you voice it, anti-Semitism.
And they can use actual anti-Semites to serve their own propaganda purposes, right?
That's why they're not puritanical.
That's why they hate us, because we're not anti-Semitic. So they're like, why don't you be anti-Semitic?
Yes.
So we can cancel you.
Yeah, because they go in, it's like, oh, stop saying Zionists, stop saying Israel, so just say Jews. And then they push you until finally someone will say, okay, it's Jews as an anti-Semitic.
I'm not gonna let them win.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't play that game.
Yeah, and we're not as hateful as they are. They're disgusting, hateful people who despise Muslims. And so now let me get into it on a bunch of things you mentioned. So you report her on X. X goes, no, hating Muslims is perfectly fine. If you took the same exact words as Laura Loomer and you transferred out Muslim and put in Jew, I guarantee you X would cancel your account forever. Okay, because they would say that is anti-Semitic, right? So she also said in response, and imagine if you'd said that not just about Jewish people, but after Jewish people were just murdered in a synagogue, right? Another post she had after the shooting, she said, so now I'm going to make sure the entire world is anti-Islam. I hate Islam and I always will. So if someone wrote, I'm going to make sure the entire world is anti-Jews, I hate Judaism and I always will, no one would ever talk to them. Instead, what has happened? First of all, New York Post doubling down on what Laura Loomer said, talking about how, oh, that mosque probably had terrorists in it, or terrorist supporters, because Rupert Murdoch is actually the biggest racist of my lifetime. He's a disgusting bigot who has spread anti-Muslim bigotry all across the world. All of his publications do it, and they treat him like he's a legitimate, decent person in society. He's a Hitlerian figure who has driven so much violence and war and hatred in the world, okay? And so then on top of that, New York Times, they just did a piece on Laura Loomer last week. They did not mention a single anti-Muslim thing she's ever said. They made her seem like a perfectly innocent, wonderful person raising money for a cause. It was almost like a giant ad in the form of a New York Times article for her cause. Her cause was to raise money to attack Muslims. And so New York Times is like, bravo, bravo, way to attack the Muslims, anti-Semite. Yeah, shut up, okay? You disgusting pigs who work at the New York Times. Now you say, well, you're not allowed to say that about me. Yes, well, what'd you say about me? So Laura Loomer is not anti-Muslim according to the New York Times, but when they wrote a piece about me when I was running for Congress, they called me anti-Muslim.
What? They called you anti-Muslim?
They called me anti-Muslim.
What did you do to get
Because you know why? Because they took an out of context joke about both fundamentalist Muslims and Orthodox Jews. It was just a joke and it's clear and everybody laughs. And they're like, good enough, we're smearing him, right? So let's say he's anti-Muslim. Don't mention that he grew up Muslim or his family's Muslim. And then we'll call him an anti-Semite and then we'll call him this and we'll call him that. So because if you're an outsider and you do not agree with the powerful, the New York Times will try to destroy you. But if you're a sick, disgusting bigot who's in favor of Israel, the New York Times will celebrate you. If you're Hassan Piker and you said something slightly off, the entire national media will talk about you for months and months. Oh, Hassan Piker, disgusting anti-Semite, and then they'll make up stuff for it. Laura Loomer says, I hate all Muslims, and I like when they're murdered. And stop antisemitism.com. So when Muslims are murdered, start talking about smearing them. Oh, they had it coming. Look at these Muslims, they're terrible, right? And New York Times was like, bravo, bravo. And Jake Tapper was like, oh, look at the anti-Semites at StopAntisemitism.com. Oh my God, everyone in the world is an anti-Semite. Oh, Muslims are killed, who cares? Who cares? Oh, Laura Loomer, bravo. Right, New York Times? Right, New York Post? There's absolutely no question about it. You could go and look at that article, that filthy crap that you wrote about Laura Loomer, whitewash, helping her fundraise against us, against Muslim Americans, and then you pretend you're objective.
Hold on, not just Muslim Americans, helping her fundraise against Americans who are critical of Israel's slaughter of women, children, and innocent civilians in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria. I mean, the list goes on and on. You have to stop being surprised by this, okay? Yeah. We have to stop pretending as if this is shocking. It's not shocking. The only thing that has been shocking to me about the New York Times lately is that they ran the Nick Kristof Israelis raping Palestinians story.
But this is what they do. They throw you a little bit. They
a little release valve.
They do like a breadcrumbs to say, we're still objective. We're still objective, and then I was like, we talk about, and then they flood you with the other side of news. It's just, we said that. We put it in line number 255.
In the opinion,
in the opinion thing.
Yeah.
No, so that one is actually a little bit nuanced because their opinion section is different than their news section. Their opinion section checked the facts over and over and over, was sure, and they published it. So credit to their opinion section. Now this is what set me off yesterday. So Dylan Byers at Puck reported that the news section of the New York Times was livid at Kristof and the opinion section. And they said, this is so embarrassing to us. Why is it embarrassing? Was it wrong? No, they acknowledge it is factually correct. And the New York Times quadruple checked it, because if it's about Israel, you have to check it 200 times. If you want to smear a Muslim, do it, who cares? No one cares at all. They'll give you a raise to do it, right? But they quadruple checked it over and over again. And the news section of the New York Times was like, how dare they? They wrote something against our beloved Israel. The opinion section should be canceled. Because there are no political reporters, there are no international reporters at the New York Times. They all work for Israel. They're propagandists.
They're ex-IDFs, ex-Mossad, ex-Shin Bet, ex-Unit 180. They are Israelis with their children in the IDF.
Have they considered that maybe they're the embarrassing ones?
Of course, and why the word embarrassing was super interesting because they should be embarrassed. The news section is supposed to report the news, but they, instead of reporting the news, they bury the news on behalf of Israel. So when someone at their paper actually does real news, they're like, oh, that is embarrassing, right? And so guys, look, I'll tell you a story that I've never said before. It's from behind the scenes, so I won't say which major publication. But I talked to somebody from a major publication that said that one of the issues is, even if you go to ask the reporters, senior reporters at the paper or magazine, to report on what's actually happening in Israel, they say no, and because they've been supporting Israel their whole career, and they flat out refuse to write it. So I say, well, why don't you fire them? The union. The union comes in and goes, they have seniority. If you're gonna fire anyone, in that particular case, you have to fire the junior reporters who are getting it right. But you have to protect the senior reporters who are lying on purpose and literally tell you, I will not write facts in this paper if it criticizes Israel. So that literally happens in newsrooms in America. So, and to your guys' point in the beginning, think about it. If it was two Muslim kids who went and shot a synagogue or a church, right? Would anyone call them anything but a terrorist? No, of course they'd call them terrorists. Two Muslim guys walk into a church and shoot people. Literally everyone on cable news would call them a terrorist. Not one person has called these guys terrorists. Why? Because they shot up Muslims. That doesn't count.
Do you remember that story from Texas? The kid that was drowned, like almost drowned by a Jewish woman. Her name is Elizabeth Wolf, and she tried to drown him. And thank God they caught her. And they have never said anything about this woman's religion. They never said anything about this being a hate crime. They reported it once and gone.
I just don't understand.
No, we understand
the human capacity to rob another person of their life. I don't understand it. I really don't.
We've seen it more than 100,000 times in Gaza. They don't care.
I know.
Super last thing, real quick, on what you said about Islamophobia. I almost never use that word the entire time.
Good for you.
And so your point on it is great, but also it feels weak.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it makes it feel like it's almost justified to be afraid of Muslims.
Yeah, like arachnophobia.
Yeah.
So agoraphobia.
No, I don't think they're afraid of Muslims. No. I think they hate Muslims.
Yeah.
And they want to spread hatred towards Muslims so Israel can get everything they want. So when Israel murders their Muslim neighbors and steals their land, the American media gets to say, well, I mean, they're a bunch of terrorist Muslims. They said, no, that's hatred. That is hatred that mainstream media, almost every cable news anchor in America is deeply racist and bigoted. They despise Muslims and they push hatred out 24/7 and they're obviously hypocrites. And so I agree with you guys though. We just should, from now on guys, assume that if they work in mainstream media, they're a liar and they're lying on behalf of Israel. If they prove otherwise, great, right? But so far, I haven't seen it. 98% of mainstream media is not doing the news. They are doing propaganda super weirdly for a different country. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.